Remember when heavy metal ruled our lives? When great albums and great concerts came out every month?
Yeah, the 80s.
Well, it's time to look back at those days, so take out your old vinyl
And cassettes.
put on your denim jacket.
And raise your fist in the air.
It's time for the 80s Metal Hang, a classic heavy metal podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This week we go back to August of 1983 for the month of the EP as Ratt, Queensryche and Armored Saint released their debut recordings. ACDC switches things up, and the 1983 installment of the Castle Donnington Monsters of Rock Festival takes place in England. All of this and more on the 80s Metal Hang, a classic heavy metal podcast. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Rob.
I'm Craig.
And we're going to go back in time to great moments in heavy metal history.
You could almost smell the Aquanet.
And I said the month of the EP because we have a lot of very famous bands in the metal world who released their initial recordings, debut recordings as EPs. Do you think people know what EPs are these days?
I don't know. What would they call it? Like hit singles, but with 4 songs?
And meanwhile, EP stands for like extended play, but yet it's shorter than a LP. Long play.
Yeah.
So extended is shorter than long, I guess.
It was EPs were kind of like, it was a short record, like with like 4 songs, 6 songs. That was basically, I don't want to say a glorified demo, but it was before they got signed to a major label. But sometimes they independently released it, or a small company released it, then they got recognized and a bigger one would sign them. So
sometimes I think it's cost, it's obviously
that
cheaper
too.
to record 4 songs or 6 songs than it is to record 10. It's even hard to find out exactly the day that these EPs we're going to talk about came out because they didn't have big release dates. They didn't have like a day where these records all appeared at the record store. They basically appeared one day in their cars when they went to pick them up from the record distributor.
Or the local pressing factory or something.
Exactly.
Oh, here's like, what was it, Metallica? It had initial like 15,000 or whatever we said.
Right, yeah. And most of the EPs that we're talking about also only had, 5,000, 10,000 pressings originally. And the first one, let's talk about Armored Saint. They came up once or twice in previous episodes.
Yeah, very good band.
Yeah, good band that still has a career and had a lot of albums in the 80s. So this EP they released, was it independently? Did we decide?
I thought it was Metal Blade, then it went to Chrysalis, but I don't remember exactly.
Obviously, we're talking about all these bands because they eventually went to major labels. So Armored Saint was on Chrysalis. But regardless, this was self-recorded, self-made. And this one only has, 4 songs? 5 songs? Yeah, 5 songs. 5 songs. So I did not know much of this album. I've obviously listened to it in the years since. But there's a song on here.
Lesson Well Learned?
Lesson Well Learned. That's a well-known song. And False Alarm is a song that appeared on their later debut, March of the Saint.
And what Lesson Well Learned was a song on the Metal Massacre series that I think it was a California thing.
Metal Blade, yeah.
They had Metal Massacre 1 and 2. They were on 2. A lot of bands had songs on that compilation. It seems to really have helped.
Metallica's Hit the Lights. Even Ratt, we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Ratt had a song originally on the Metal Massacre compilations.
See, if they had that over here, there would be a podcast being done about us.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to this band? It was on this compilation. I don't know. I heard 2 of the guys are doing a podcast or something. But you don't have to wonder what the guys in Armored Saint are doing now because very rarely the entire band that recorded this EP stuck with Armored Saint. Sadly, Dave Pritchard, one of the guitar players, passed away in the late 80s after, I think, their 3rd album. But 4 of the 5 guys on this demo are still in Armored Saint today. So it's John Bush on vocals. It's probably the most well-known name. Mm-hmm. And he also has a connection to Metallica, I think, right?
He was actually invited by Lars to audition back in the early days. This was when James was still a little self-conscious about singing. He didn't want to be a front man and sing. So they brought in Bush to audition, and he didn't do it.
I think Joey Vera, actually, the bass player at Armored Saint, also auditioned at some point. I can't remember if it was before Cliff or after Cliff, but he was considered. So there's a lot of connections between Armored Saint and Metallica. And Armored Saint, from this EP, gets signed, Craig mentioned, Chrysalis Records, and they come out with their debut, March of the Saint, in 1984.
And this is one of those weird things. Like, remember when you were a kid, you had these books, Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yeah.
And if you pick one thing, you go to page 90 or whatever. Yeah. This is like What if Bush did audition?
Yeah.
And what if they kept him? What would have happened? Would Metallica have gone nowhere? Would they? It's weird.
Yeah, I know, it is very strange. He obviously would have been involved in the songwriting, so whatever song ideas that Hetfield had, he would have put his own stamp on, his own lyrics on, because James Hetfield doesn't really get a lot of credit, but he has written every single lyric for Metallica, a lot of them great lyrics too.
He and Lars are Metallica pretty much. So.
But they wouldn't be, if John Bush was the singer, James Hetfield might just be the rhythm guitar player standing in the back by the amps, like Malcolm Young.
His voice would not have been bad for Metallica.
No.
We're looking back, 2020, like with Hetfield's voice, we know it, but Bush had a kind of a raspy, aggressive voice.
He did, and Metallica did some anniversary shows. I can't remember if it was the 30th or 35th year. They did 4 shows at a theater in San Francisco, and they brought out everyone from their history. Their first bass player, Ron McGovney. They had Newsted come back. And John Bush actually got up and sang, and I think he sang the Four Horsemen with them. So you got to actually hear what John Bush sounded like singing for Metallica.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And side note, later on, Bush would be known that he went to Anthrax.
Yeah.
Which was completely different than what they had with Joey Belladonna. He sounded great, but completely different.
Yeah, you can understand why someone wanted to stick with their own band. So he and Joey Vera don't leave Armored Saint for Metallica. They stick with Armored Saint, but then by the early 90s, he gets the offer, John Bush does, for Anthrax. And
how do you say no?
Yeah, he took it. And he just recently did some shows playing songs from his Anthrax era, which was pretty cool.
And this is a band in the past we've talked about the gig we went to where Quiet Riot played Stony Brook University Gym.
Yes.
And we saw Armored Saint open.
Yeah.
It was the March of the Saint tour.
Right. It was like a year later.
Yeah, but I remember them. They were really good. I don't know how to describe them as a band. They're just like straight up metal or just like
straight up
solid.
Metal. I mean, the bass player and drummer maybe did a little bit more than like some of the straight ahead Judas Priest stuff at the time, but I kind of compare their 2 guitar players to Judas Priest. I did the intro to Can You Deliver, which isn't on this EP. I just love the overlapping guitars intro, the 2 rhythms going.
Forgot about that. I haven't listened to that in a long time. I don't know why I didn't listen to it before this podcast.
Well, when we get to their album release month in 1984, we'll have to dive deeper into Armored Saint. But obviously, they're still around. I think they're touring currently now, so you can actually go see Armored Saint. They've done a bunch of shows with Wasp, and I think Accept and Queensryche, so they're always double billing with another 80s metal band.
Yes, they're still marching. They might not be saints, but they're marching.
And I mentioned they were playing shows with the version of Queensryche that exists now. There's Jeff Tate touring, and then there's Queensryche touring with 2 original members and 3 replacement members. So they're one of those bands that's got a couple different versions out there. But Queensryche only had one version in 1983, and that was the classic Tate DeGarmo, Wilton Jackson, Rockenfield version. And they released their first EP in August of 1983.
And I don't know how I heard of this EP, but I remember it, and it was like The Lady Wore Black and Queen of the Reich. It was just great. You have this guy doing these like opera things, which, I mean, we've had a lot of screaming memes out there, but this is not that.
It was definitely a voice that people immediately threw him into the Dickinson Halford realm, that level. He got up there pretty quickly. They would call Halford the best new vocalist, even though Halford and Dickinson weren't that old, but this was like the new kind of era, I guess. And out of Seattle, so many bands were coming from LA and England, and all of a sudden you have this boom out of Seattle, this band that originally was just the 4 instrumentalists, and they kind of had to convince this other guy, Jeff Tate, who was in some other band, to come and sing on their demo. Yeah,
because they were a cover band at the time, and Jeff Tate didn't want to do covers, so.
And then they were like, "Hey, we wrote songs, sing on them."
Then
Queen of the Reich, Knight Rider, Lady Wore Black, all became classics in the Queensryche catalog. They were from Seattle. They were from Seattle, but strangely, the first real notice of them was in England. They had gotten these early managers who sent copies of this demo to Kerrang! Magazine.
And they got great reviews.
And it got like a 5-star review. So then back in America, people are reading this review and realizing it's a band on the West Coast, and they were able to parlay that into a record deal. They went on tour opening for some bands. They did some hometown shows. Whenever a big band came through Seattle, they would be like the opener. So immediately got signed to a major label.
Which is great, because the EP was released independently. I think they called it 206 Records or something. Again,
that's the area code, I think, of Seattle.
Yeah.
And so they, I mean, this is a band, I mean, we talk about bands and how good their debuts were, if they peaked at a certain time. As great as this EP is, I think Queensryche got even better every album. Like the leaps that they took to The Warning, to Rage for Order, to Operation Mindcrime, I think was probably the biggest improvement development of a band over the course of 3 or 4 albums of any band.
The evolution of Queensryche is just crazy. I mean, you look at what they went from the EP to the next one. Then they ended up with Operation Mindcrime, which was basically
concept album.
Yes, I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, so they, that's their 80s right there. We just rattled off their 80s discography, I guess. Operation Mindcrime was their last album in the 80s, and then they had Empire in the early 90s, but, just got bigger and bigger every album, and despite what they are now, kind of fractured, they definitely just got better every album. Rage for Order, they're one of those bands that, depending on what you're listening to and what month, you're like, this is their best album.
Rage was great.
And when you have to argue about 3 or 4 albums, which one's the best album, that's obviously a classic band.
I think it was a Rage for Order tour where I saw them at Lemore's, but it was Lemoore East. It wasn't in Brooklyn, it was in Queens. And that was a great show. I remember it was very hot. It was so hot inside that there were these huge mirrors on the walls, and people were like writing their names into steam because everything was fogged up.
That's Rage for Order tour?
I don't know. It's so long ago.
There's a video on YouTube of a show at Lemore's on the Rage for Order tour. The drummer had like
chains.
He had big tubes. He used to have chains for his cymbal stands, but then they had this futuristic like tubes in front of his drums. And,
I didn't do my homework.
But yeah, so they were. I did not see them on the Rage for Order tour. I was not at that show. And they did come around opening for Ozzy on the Rage for Order tour, but we had seen Ozzy with Metallica a few months prior.
I saw Ozzy with Queensryche also.
But we famously saw Queensryche the first time together.
Yes.
And I probably didn't hear this EP until after we saw them open for Iron Maiden at Radio City, which was not till early 85. So I didn't hear this EP for at least a year after it came out.
They won me over for that show. I remember there was one part where the guitar players were playing a solo together or something, and they had these like peers that went out into the crowd, and they were both on each side of the stage, and I was young, and I was like, how do they know what to play? How are they playing the same thing together?
How do they hear each other?
Yeah, and it was wild. They won me over, like I said.
I think if I remember correctly, I think we were with 5 or 6 other friends. We were kind of divided. Like some of you loved it, some of us, and then I was one who was like, to Take Hold of the Flame song is okay, but I don't know the rest of it. But then obviously I was converted shortly thereafter.
Praise be.
Oh, yeah. So Queensryche beginning their career, like Armored Saints beginning their career, and then down in Los Angeles, another classic 80s band is putting out their first release, and that first release is Ratt's debut EP.
And one more thing about Queensryche, which was weird.
I already introduced Ratt. You can't go back to Queensryche now.
I have to.
Okay,
this is an important thing.
Okay, go ahead.
They were from Seattle, and they didn't wear any type of flannels.
They were, right?
That's weird.
It's funny when you say Seattle. Seattle, before grunge, is Jimi Hendrix, it's Heart, and it's Queensryche, and shortly after Queensryche comes out with that giant Empire album, Silent Lucidity and all that, Seattle explodes into a world of flannel and boots.
Flannel and boots and depression.
Another rainy night in Seattle.
All right, so back to the Rodents.
Yes. Another band who wasn't wearing flannel, wasn't wearing boots. They were wearing eyeliner and bandanas tied around their forearms. And that band is Ratt with 2 T's.
2 T's, that's important.
That is important. Some of the members are from San Diego originally, moved up to L.A. Stephen Pearcy said, when he heard Van Halen, he knew that he had to go to Los Angeles and be part of that. So he came up from San Diego. Maybe Robin Crosby came up from San Diego. And another early guitar player of theirs came up from San Diego, Jakey Lee.
Warren DeMartini was from San Diego, too.
Jakey Lee, San Diego's only like 2 hours south of L.A., so I guess they were driving back and forth, and they got Warren DeMartini from there, too. But this EP... they put out themselves on their own Time Coast. Is that what it was?
Yeah, Time Coast.
Time Coast Records. Craig and I, we have a copy of it right here. And it has some songs that became classics and one that got re-recorded. Was it Sweet Cheater, You Think You're Tough, Tell the World You Got It, Back for More, and Walking the Dog. Those are the 6 songs on the EP.
And when you listen to the EP, like I said, sometimes a glorified demo type of thing. The production on this it's not that great.
Again, probably recorded at a lesser studio during the cheaper hours overnight. And they also had a song, I think the Tell the World song, a different recording of it appeared on one of the Metal Massacre compilations. But this on the back cover has the classic lineup that would appear on all their 80s albums. DeMartini, Blotzer, Piercy, Crozier, and Robin Crosby. And
some of the songs, Bobby Blotzer and Juan Crozier, however you say his name, they weren't on some of the songs, I think.
The early recordings, they weren't. They may have not been on one song here. They claim they re-recorded some of it. I'm not sure. But, You Think It Tough became a classic. They re-recorded Back for More, a shorter version for the Out of the Cellar album. And my history with this album is I saw Ratt open for Twisted Sister in 1984.
Wow.
And I was in love with the Out of the Cellar album. And so I'm watching them, and they did 2 or 3 songs I didn't know. So I was like, what are these songs that I don't know? And so I went to the record store, and I literally, I hate when I say that, I actually have the record right in front of me that I bought in 1984. And it's pretty expensive for an EP. It says $7.99 on it, which sounds really cheap today, but records were probably less than that then. So this is like some kind of, not import, but I guess it was a rare EP, or maybe the record store was just trying to rip me off. But I bought the original one. The original one that I have is on Time Coast Records. Once Out of the Cellar hit, they re-released it under Atlantic Records with a new photo on the back. But it's funny. I was looking at the special thanks. They thank Herman Rarebell.
Oh, wow.
We just mentioned him 2 episodes ago, whatever it was. We were talking about the Scorpions, that Herman Rarebell.
He puts his name on his drums.
Name's on his drums, and I don't know why, but he's thanked on this Ratt album. I guess, people know each other through the LA/Germany scene. I don't know.
LA, Germany.
Well, Juan Crozier was in Germany for a while because he was playing with Don Dokken. And he actually appears on a song or 2 on the first Dokken album, but then jumped back into Ratt when they got signed.
People, like when they listen to Ratt, you think of basically Warren DeMartini because he's an amazing guitar player. But Crozier, he's one of those bass players like Michael Anthony and Van Halen. His vocals are just they really enhance that band. He's got the high vocals. He's good.
He also wrote a lot of songs. Warren DeMartini kind of became the Joe Perry to Stephen Pearcy's Steven Tyler. You always got the guitar player singer. They tried to get a guitar hero. So Robin Crosby pushed a little into the back, but Robin Crosby co-wrote every song on this EP. So it was him and Pearcy for the songwriting at the very beginning, and then DeMartini kind of maybe took over as the guitar hero. It's something interesting. I'm looking at the credits on the back of the album. And it's produced by a guy named Liam Sternberg, who I did not know who that was, but it's engineered by Ed Stasium. Ed Stasium was actually a well-known producer. He became a producer. He did some later Ramones stuff, and he actually produced the first Living Colour album, Cult of Personality, and all that. And he actually produced an album that a guy I work with actually got signed to a record label and recorded at Ed Stasium's studio in Colorado. But more important than all the musical credits is the front cover of this is a pair of legs
with rats
crawling up it. And these legs were to become very famous in the years that passed. Whose legs are these?
Tawny Kitaen. She's basically dated like every musician.
And
in the world.
So she would later be on the cover of Out of the Cellar. She'd be in the Back for More video. And then a couple years later, after she and Robin Crosby stopped dating, she starts dating someone named David Coverdale, and then is on our TVs rolling across a Jaguar for the rest of the 1980s.
And they really were rats on this cover. She said she was like freaked out.
And actually I just realized it's 5 rats, so I guess they're supposed to represent the 5 guys in the band. And even though he doesn't sing that great, I have to say I saw Stephen Pearcy at Mohegan Sun like 2 years ago, and even though he never could sing that great.
But he admits that too in his book. He talks all about that.
But you know what? It's a band where they go and they play 15, 17 songs, and every one of them is a song you remember that you love from back in the day. Half of them I played with you in the basement. So I'm like, I can get up there and play Lack of Communication. I can get up there and play You Think You're Tough.
I didn't think he was bad. He just wasn't on
he's-
par with a lot of the big guns.
We
out
just
there.
talked about Jeff Tate. He's not Jeff Tate, Halford Dickinson, but he's a rock vocalist. He's a
and he's what the band.
garbler.
It's what the band needed at the time, and
Attitude.
Let's face it. In the '80s, it wasn't all about the music. It was about the look, and the band, they looked good, and he sounded good for the music. So he was. I thought he was good for it.
Yeah.
I see him on Instagram too. He's still playing along.
Yeah,
I follow him.
So he's doing this year in 2026. He's doing the 40th anniversary of Dancing Undercover. He's going to do a set of Dancing Undercover songs for the 40th anniversary of that.
And I'm sure you know, but I don't know about the people out there. The original name of the band.
Mickey Ratt?
Yeah, Mickey Ratt. In case anyone doesn't know.
And
Tell your friends at a
I don't know if
party.
they changed it because it was foolish, or they changed it because they thought they'd get in trouble with Mickey Mouse. I don't know.
Maybe both.
You can't really trademark the word Mickey, can you?
Mickey Ratt, Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Ratt, Mickey Mouse. So Stephen Pearcy. So he's a little bit of a rough vocalist, but he's no Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson is the real growling type of singer.
And he's no rail. Anyway, no, we won't go into that.
That was we used to call them Easter eggs, like hidden things on DVDs that you could find, like hidden Easter eggs. What Craig just said, that's an Easter egg. If anyone knows what that reference was, then you are one of us.
Should we tell or?
Go ahead. Was it 1983? It has to be 1983.
Yeah.
Probably
83,
was.
yeah.
All right.
It was MTV. Had a video contest. You could win a professionally made video or something.
Right.
And this band Rail sent in this song. It was it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. I forget what it was called. But
wasn't part of my preparation, but Craig and I have been doing deep dives into everything 80s, obviously. And yeah.
Frank would know.
We have a friend, Frank, who brought up, you have to talk about Rail. And we cracked up because we all remember that this long-haired band, I think they may have been from Seattle. Were they from Seattle?
I don't know.
They won with their video, and they got a professionally made video that they used to show on MTV, and it was this band called Rail. We're going to have to add Rail to the beginning of our intro now because I didn't know we'd sidetrack.
Apparently, they're still around, too.
Sidetrack to talk about Rail. Track,
man.
Rail.
Oh,
God, cut that out.
that's staying.
Now we have dead air, too. They're an American band who won MTV's Basement Tapes competition in 1983. The group was well known in the Seattle area under the names Rail and Company and Rail and Co. They're from Bellevue, Washington, outside Seattle. And yeah.
What was the song?
1, 2, 3, 4, rock and roll. So the Rail song, 1, 2, 3, 4, rock and roll, won the MTV Basement Tapes.
I always get that confused with Helix, ROCK. What you got, rock? What you gonna do, rock you? Whatever it is.
Give me an R-O. Not to be confused with the ROCK in the USA by John Cougar Mellencamp. All right.
Anyway.
ACDC.
Yeah, we went definitely sidetracked.
I think we were talking about like Stephen Pearcy's growly voice, but no one has the growl quite like Brian Johnson of ACDC. And in 1983, they came out with their third Brian Johnson album and their 9th album overall, depending on how you count. They had 2 albums in Australia that became 1 album here, but whatever. 9 or 10 albums, third Brian Johnson album, Flick of the Switch.
Yes, and this didn't do. From what I understand, a lot of people didn't like this as much because they produced the album themselves. They wanted to get go back to a more raw sound.
Yeah, I mean, Back in Black, Brian Johnson's first album, has sold like 20 million copies by now. But in the first year or two, it sold 5 or 6 million. They recorded it at Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas with Mutt Lange. And Mutt Lange did the next album, For Those About to Rock. They recorded that in Paris. So now they decided to go back to Compass Point, recreate the Back in Black magic, but not take Mutt Lange with them, who was kind of an important part, obviously. And Craig mentioned the Back to Basics album that they did, and I guess it's too basic because this one only sold a fraction of what Back in Black and For Those sold.
It's hard enough to compete with the 2 previous albums we just talked about in general. I mean, Back in Black, For Those About to Rock. How do you even follow that up? It's tough enough, and you get rid of the producer that made them? That's kind of dumb.
Something else, if you look into AC/DC history that I don't think we even knew at the time, is Dirty Deeds. As big as a song and an album as that became, when you look at Dirty Deeds in the AC/DC history, they have it as coming out in 1976. But Dirty Deeds was never released in America. It wasn't released in America until 1981. So people that were following ACDC, Back in Black comes out. Then they're told, here's an unreleased album with their deceased singer, Dirty Deeds. And then they come out for Those About to Rock. So now they have 3 albums out in almost a 2-year span. And now here comes this album. It's their 4th album of the 80s already. And it's Flick of the Switch. Very simple album cover. The way Back in Black was all black, this one is all white. It's got the embossed, did I say embossed cover, but you could feel it. It's a very simple drawing of Angus flicking a switch, electrical power switch of some kind.
Angus sketched that out. He wanted it to represent turning on the power, the raw power, or whatever.
And the first song, Rising Power, I have to say I love this album. A common theme of 1983 for me, is the albums that I bought first. So I didn't buy Number of the Beast first. I bought Peace of Mind first. So I have a soft spot for Peace of Mind. With this album, while it's not as good as Back in Black and For Those About to Rock, I still love it. I still know all the songs. I listened to it this week. Rising Power, This House is on Fire, title track. There's a song called Guns for Hire that opens side 2. That's the song they opened up with for the tour, which I was lucky enough to see. In December of 83, it was my 4th concert, I believe. And the closest I ever sat at that point, I was like 18th row on the floor and got to see ACDC at Nassau Coliseum on Long Island.
I saw ACDC only once. And I don't know what tour it was, but Yngwie opened.
That was the next tour. That was Fly on the Wall.
And I just thought it was ironic because you have this guy run, on stage playing 1,000 miles per hour, trying to show off. And which he did, and then you go to Angus and ACDC, who are just like basically a rock blues type of band, and they're the complete opposite. And I'll still take ACDC over Yngwie. I mean,
different types of players.
Yeah.
I mean, ACDC obviously didn't care that there was a hotshot speed guitarist playing before them. They didn't care. Most of the people were there for them. But it was, people say Flick of the Switch and then Fly on the Wall was kind of like a downward arc for ACDC for a while until they came back up with Thunderstruck and other things.
I didn't like Fly on the Wall at all.
No, I like this album, Flick of the Switch, better than all the 80s albums afterwards, which would be Fly on the Wall, Who Made Who wasn't really an album. It was like a greatest hits with one new song, and then what was the other one? Blow Up Your Video. I like Flick of the Switch better than those.
I like Dirty Deeds. When I was a kid, it was such a fun tape to listen to.
So it's got the song about ballrooms on there.
Yes, that was pretty much why we would crank it and be like, we thought we were bad.
Yeah, but I don't think that album's that great. I don't know. Dirty Deeds obviously is great. It's got Problem Child on it, which had already appeared on Let There Be Rock, and
I think we only liked
Ride
it
on there.
Was the song about testicles.
Ballroom's always full.
Yeah, I'm trying
bouncing
to keep
the
it,
left and the right.
Trying to keep it rated
Well, if we
G,
just, it gets played on the radio because it's really just about ballroom dancing and, wanting to hold.
It's a pun.
Them every night.
Yeah, they swing left to right.
Left to right, and they should be held every night.
That was like a rebellion to play that loud. Be like, yeah.
So Flick of the Switch did not perform as well as it should have. Mutt Lange was probably more important than they thought he was. Angus and Malcolm recorded this themselves. I read for years that Phil Rudd didn't really play in this album, but they put his name on the back. They since now say he did. I think maybe that's revisionist history that they just want to, because, when Phil Rudd was back in the band, they wanted him on as many albums as possible. But once you see the videos they recorded and the tour that they went on for Flick of the Switch, Phil Rudd is not there. They have a new drummer, Simon Wright. Now, I think doesn't the article say that Phil Rudd plays on it or something?
Yeah, they said that he played the tracks. He was let go in the middle of recording the record, but his tracks were already done. Again, it depends who you talk to, if it's true or if they're just trying to change history. But yeah, he was let go. He had a lot of problems, and
they supposedly brought a drummer from the band Procol Harum down to the Bahamas, and I can't imagine they flew him down there and he didn't do anything. But evidently he didn't, because Phil Rudd had already recorded the drums. Then they held auditions and got Simon Wright and went out on the Flick of the Switch tour. And like, I think half of the contents I've already mentioned. The opening band when I saw them on the Flick of the Switch tour,
Fastway.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said it because you would have said it first. Yeah, Fastway. So I think this is my 4th concert and 3rd time seeing Fastway as an opener. So yeah,
and
Fastway.
Last episode we spoke about the US Festival.
Yes,
and we talked about Ozzy punching Rudy Sarzo.
Yes,
And you said, I wonder if a lot of rock stars do that once they get drunk and they're rocking out.
Yeah.
Well, this one did too. Malcolm Young punched Phil Rudd.
Phil Rudd. And Craig and I were amazed by this, and we tried to look in as many different places as possible to confirm it. But where did this fight happen?
At the Nassau Coliseum. That was our home turf.
Our venue that we've talked about before, and where I saw ACDC. Evidently, the tour before this, Phil Rudd showed up late and drunk to a concert at Nassau Coliseum.
He couldn't even play the last encore song or something.
Yeah, they
he
ran
was
out
so
of time
drunk
because they started too late. So Phil Rudd, for a year or so, was annoying the members of ACDC until finally getting the heave-ho during Flick of the Switch's recording.
Was Phil Rudd big or tall or anything? Because I can't see Malcolm doing much damage.
Nobody in ACDC is big or tall.
Yeah, because he's basically a hobbit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bass player was the tallest one, and he was only 5'8", 5'9", or something. Anyway, moving on from that, there's another band that I think, I don't think, they were from England, but they ended up coming to New York. There's a band called Raven. They had an album called All For One. The first time I probably heard of Raven was seeing that they were on tour with Metallica. Metallica did a Kill 'Em All tour, and it was called Kill 'Em All For One because it was a split co-headlining tour with Raven.
Right.
Who were two brothers, the Gallagher brothers, and they had a drummer. Remember the drummer?
Oh, God. Yeah, I thought it was, even as a kid, I thought it was kind of silly. He wore a hockey helmet.
He wore a hockey helmet, and he used to hit the cymbals with his head. And I don't know how it sounded live, but you'd see the videos with the studio recording, and he'd be biting the cymbals and hitting them with his hockey head.
When you talk about 80s, Mel, there are a lot of ridiculous things, a lot of crazy things, a lot of silly things, but this wasn't one of the cool ones.
No. He ended up leaving the band, and after 4 or 5 albums and becoming a producer or engineer or something. Rob Wacko Hunter. He and the Gallagher brothers. And we used to, this will come up later on, but we used to have this local cable channel called U68.
Oh, yeah.
And they used to show these weird videos at night. And it was a tri-state area, New York, New Jersey thing. And they used to show a Raven video called On and On, which was from a later album.
That was one of their hits, right?
Yeah.
Big song.
Hits, yeah.
Well, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, one of their well-known songs, because they got signed to a major label too.
Atlantic,
a lot of these bands, we're talking about their independent releases, and next thing you know, they end up on Atlantic, they end up on Chrysalis, they end up, getting scooped up by these major labels.
It's a third record, and I mean, I re-listened to it. I actually never listened to it to begin with, so I listened to it, and it wasn't that bad. The vocals, not my cup of tea, but the music wasn't bad. The guitar player had some cool stuff going on. A lot of whammy bar things.
Whammy bar. And they come back every once in a while. They do shows and, have released some recordings in the 2000s. So Raven still having an audience out there since all the way back in the early 80s.
And I actually saw them play again at Lemore's, but this was Lemore Far East. It was out on Long Island. It was in Comac. And Raven played there. And back in the day, we knew people, and so we went backstage. Backstage was a little room, and it was a drummer's birthday or something. It was this whole smorgasbord and cake and stuff, and he wasn't friendly.
Did he smash his head into the cake?
No, he just kind of looked at us with a grumpy face.
Was he wearing the hockey helmet?
Not at the time. On stage, he did.
Yeah.
So that's my Raven story.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hey. As a kid, being backstage and seeing, that even on the road you get a birthday cake and, he made you want to be a rock star.
Yeah, when we got onto King Diamond's tour bus once, there was this band. It wasn't King himself. He had his own bus. And we were standing there, and they were all sitting there speaking Danish or whatever, and we're like, all right, yep. So we just kind of left. We're like, this, what are we doing here? So we took a couple of, beer bottle caps and brought them as some type of souvenir.
There you go. And his band, his backup band, actually, all those guys, Mickey D and everything, just came out with a recording, a band, Lex Legion, they formed.
Great band, though.
But, absolutely. One thing that happened in August of 83 that happens every August in the 80s is the Castle Donnington Monsters of Rock Festival. So August 20th, 1983 was the version that we're talking about, and it was Diamond Head, Dio, Twisted Sister, ZZ Top, Meatloaf, and headlined by Whitesnake. Now, you see Meatloaf and ZZ Top, doesn't sound too metal, but anyone who followed heavy metal in the 80s saw the Castle Donnington Festival, and it was just the biggest, coolest heavy metal festival. It was almost like an US festival every year. And it would be headlined famously by Maiden in '88 and Metallica later on, and ACDC in '84, I believe. So Whitesnake, believe it or not, was the headliner, and this is 1983, before Slide It In, before the '87 Still the Night album. Whitesnake was huge over there.
I've never gone to there, obviously, to Donnington.
I was close once. I was in England once a week before, and I don't know why I didn't schedule it for... it was like 92 when Maiden headlined Fear of the Dark tour. I should have gone, stood in that field with a bunch of British metal fans. Would have been quite an experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of fish and chips.
A lot of fish and chips. But strangely, Whitesnake is so big, and they're headlining the biggest festival in England, but David Coverdale, he still didn't have that American success. So after this, he gets John Sykes. They do Slide It In. He gets rid of everybody, gets Vivian Campbell and Rudy Sarzo and Adrian Vandenberg, and becomes huge in America. But he was huge over in England, so much so that Ozzy, on the Whitesnake tour of Europe before this festival, Ozzy was the opening band.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Like we said with the US Festival, it's crazy how things change.
It sure is. But I think every August episode that we do, August 84, 85, 86, we're always going to bring up this festival. And you can see videos of it online. It started in 1980. The first edition's headliner was Rainbow. And that was the Graham Bonnet Rainbow between Dio and Joe Lynn Turner. I think Judas Priest was on that first one also. So Castle Donnington Monsters of Rock Festival happened in August of 1983.
More importantly, when you were in England, did you go to Stonehenge?
I did.
Stonehenge?
I did, and it was post Spinal Tap. It was post Black Sabbath Born Again, so I knew its heavy metal connection. I did not back into it and knock it over with my car like Chevy Chase did in European Vacation. It was standing up again by the time I got there.
Well, that's nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny. We've talked about Seattle. Every episode we talk about England because of the heavy metal that comes out of there, and then obviously New York and L.A. But good month, August of '83.
Yeah, it was a hot one too.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I can't say I remember much about our actual lives in August of '83. It was a long time ago, but this is not a history podcast.
Waiting for school to come back and dreading it.
Yeah.
Buying school clothes and notebooks.
Next episode is going to be a September episode, and it's funny you say about going back to school. That must have been something about wanting to, get a buzz going when kids went back to school and releasing albums, because so many albums came out in September that we're probably going to do 2 different September episodes because there are so many albums. So next week we'll start September, and we're going to talk about Black Sabbath and Kiss and Motley Crue and Rainbow and Dokken and Y&T. So that'll be next week.
It's going to be, that's a big one.
Yes. So be sure to check out the 80s Metal Hang on Instagram, the 80s Metal Hang on Spotify, the 80s Metal Hang on YouTube, and contact us with comments. Tell us your memories of these albums and anything. Correct us, critique us.
Definitely. Yeah, correct us if you have to, because that's what it's all about. Sometimes we'll even be hanging out in the backyard and we'll say something, and a friend will be like, no, this is what it is. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of our memories are different, but those were our memories from August of '83. That's it. You got anything else to add?
I don't think so. I'm not going to listen to Raven today, but I may put on some Ratt.
Do it.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing on a summer day. It's a beautiful day out here in New York, and I think Ratt would really add to the day's beauty. I
don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, that's it. We'll see you next week. Please come back for more.
If you think you're tough.
Can we do any more? Any more puns?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Flick the switch off. We're done.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the 80s Metal Hang.
That's 80S.
Where you can see photos in our weekly episode scrapbook.
We also have a YouTube channel with video playlists that pair with each episode.
And on Spotify, we have playlists highlighting the albums and songs discussed each week.
And please be sure to subscribe and comment wherever you get this podcast.
Oh, yeah.